Hi there, welcome back to another episode of No So New Windows running on pretty new hardware.
This episode is about installing Windows XP on a modern PC. Well, like in the previous video about Windows 3.11, we are using a business H610 motherboard from ASUS, an Intel Raptor Lake CPU and a SATA adapter. I will start the installation of Windows XP directly from DOS. I find this method to be very compatible. Well, without further ado, this is how I installed Windows XP. First, we have to make a choice. If we stick with the factory CD, since there are no updated drivers, we get a guaranteed blue screen during the installation. On not so new motherboards, we might find an option to set SATA to act as IDE, but this is not the case with motherboards launched in recent years. On the other hand, if we choose a modified version of Windows XP, we get a bunch of drivers and patches, but also some third-party software, which we may not like it. Anyway, for this video, I'll pick up the most recent ISO that will pop up on the archive.org. Well, what do you know? This one says it's from July 2023. And it has SATA drivers. Will these SATA drivers work with the socket 1700 motherboard? Let's try. Well, they don't. We still get the infamous blue screen, but this is not a problem since my plan was to connect the installation drive to my trustworthy VS6421 PC to SATA adapter, which I know for sure that works with Windows XP. Later on, I can install the Uniata universal drivers if I want to switch to the onboard SATA. This means I don't have to do any modifications to the installation files. Now that we decided what files to use, let's prepare a FAT32 partition which will be made bootable. For this, we'll use unbootting and Windows 98 boot disk. As a bonus, we get a fully functional DOS partition, which is also accessible from Windows 9X and perfectly tolerated by Windows XP. To speed up the process, the FAT32 partition can be created in Windows 10 as well. As with any other bootable partition, it must be made active. This can be done in Windows with a few clicks or in DOS using fdisk. When we use an original Windows XP ISO, the i386 folder is all we need for the installation. In this case, we need to copy the OM folder also. So now let's boot into that. Our partition was already made active. All we need to do is to transfer the system files. This procedure is simple. We type sys followed by C:. Now our C drive is bootable. Next, we need to transfer the following files: sys edit.com and smartdirvxe. Now it's time to use edit.com to create a basic config sys file. We type edit space config. It says to access the memory above the first megabyte, we have to type device and the path to the HIMMSys memory manager, which we have copied earlier in the root of our C drive. Now we have to restart. We are ready to start Windows XP setup. Before anything else, we have to make sure that Smart Drive is running. Having this cache utility enabled is important for the DOS, part of the installation process. To start Windows XP setup, we have to navigate to the 386 folder and type WINNT. The DOS part of the installation is quite simple. Windows XP will copy all the installation files to the C drive. There will be some temporary folders created for this job. Once the files are copied, the setup will modify the boot sector, so at the next restart it can use Windows NT boot loader. In this part of the setup, we have to make two special moves. First move is about ACPI. During initial phase of the setup, when we are asked to press the F6 function key to provide additional disk drivers. At that exact time, we have to press, guess what? Well, not the F6 key, but the F7 key. The good news is that Windows XPI, like its predecessors, can work without ACPI support. While ACPI itself, it's a big deal. In practice, not having ACPI support primarily means that there is no soft shutdown. Basically, there is no signal going from the motherboard to the power source to initialize the shutdown. Second special move is about 2 setup files that are reported as missing during the installation. If we do get the file not found error, we can continue the setup by simply pressing the escape key. But right after the next restart, the installation will halt if we don't provide these exact 2 files named SETUPORG.EXE and PRESETUP.CMD.
Reports about this issue can be found online since 2007. So it's not like our installation files are corrupt. Anyway, this problem can be easily fixed by copying these 2 files into Windows folder, System32 subfolder. These 2 files are initially stored in the i386 installation folder, but the setup is looking for them into newly created Windows/System32 folder. All we need to do is to use the copy command and make sure that the files are copied in the System32 folder. Once we are done, we have to restart and the installation will continue normally without surprises. Let's relax and watch. If we use a GPU with HDMI support, then we solve the problem of a separate audio card. As you may know, HDMI sound is 100% compatible with Windows games. For example, let's try this title from 1997, the legendary Quake 2.
Indicate possible camouflage access in wet sector 432.
Now, let's take a look at our configuration using hardware info, the latest edition. Speaking about the latest, this motherboard uses the most recent BIOS release from September 2023, which is also compatible with the upcoming 14th generation.
Of course, there are some unknown devices showing up in the control panel, like the onboard Intel Gigabit adapter, which is not compatible with Windows XP. In this case, I had to use a PCI Express 1X Gigabit adapter, which was recognized automatically. The onboard audio codec might work, but I didn't bother since we have sound through HDMI. Another unknown device is the NVMe interface. Well, this one can be solved in Windows XP 64-bit edition. There are some drivers. Also, the USB interface is too new to work with Windows XP, but this is not a real problem since there are many PCI and PCI Express adapters that can be installed and are perfectly happy with Windows XP. In the end, let me show you how versatile Windows XP can be. Now I'm installing a GTX 980, which is working perfectly fine, and minutes later I can install a 16-bit hardware info program Winsloot from 1992, because why not? Thanks for watching, see you next time.